Are you ready to navigate the new way to work? Forbes Books presents Dare to Care in the Workplace with Kathleen Quinn Botaw. Here's Kathleen.
Welcome back to my chat with my dear friend, Jack Daly. We've been talking about his amazing 30-year career and how he's become an expert in sales and sales management. He's the author of Life by Design. And Jack, before we wrapped part one of our conversation, you mentioned that you created your first life design when you were 13. Can you tell us more about that?
So I'm the oldest of 5 kids. My siblings are all alive today, and they're all back in the Northeast. 3 of my 5 siblings today are delivering mail for the U.S. Postal Service. Mm-hmm. I give you that context because we were pretty blue-collar family. Mm-hmm. And I had a job as a caddy at the private country club in our community. And when I went out there, I thought I knew what the job was. Carry the clubs, find the ball, clean the ball, rake the traps, tend the pin. And all of that stuff was part of the job. But what I really realized after about 10 days is each person that showed up there drove nice cars. They played golf during the week and the weekend. They lived in big estate homes with swimming pools built into the ground. Now my dad worked 6 days a week just to put food on the table and clothes on his kids. It certainly wasn't playing golf. A couple 100,000 miles on his car, mostly in the garage getting fixed. And we had this swimming pool that was 3 feet above ground and fell apart every 2 or 3 times every summer. And all I said to myself was, these people are leading a much better life than my dad. And if I could choose, I would choose theirs. But I convinced myself that they wouldn't meet with me because who's going to take time out of their busy business schedule to meet with a 13-year-old? And by the way, you and I both know if a 13-year-old called us and asked us for a time, we'd generously give it. In fact, I'd wipe out every business meeting I had that day to welcome into my life.
100% agreed.
And so I closed that door and opened the door and said, well, wait a second, though. They come to my office. It's called the Country Club. And we're going to walk side by side for 4.5 hours. And I'm going to develop a list of questions. And I'm going to ask the questions of all the guys I caddy. And there were lots of similarities that I heard. And the biggest one that I heard, Kathleen, was this. You got to have goals. They aren't goals if they're not in writing. Don't pick too many. Put some indicator or date when they're going to get finished and share them with other people so that you feel a sense of accountability. Mm-hmm. So I sat down and I wrote 4 goals of my life, and I picked when I was going to get all 4 done. And that was when I was going to be really old, like 30, because at 13, 30 seemed far away. Incidentally, at 73, 30 seems far away again. And the 4 goals were financial. What am I going to look like at 30? Net worth and annual income. What am I going to look like professionally? I said I wanted to be the CEO of a company that was national in size in the money business. What am I going to look like education-wise? And what did I want my family to look like? And if I could paint the picture of those 4 boxes of life and pull it off, I'm going to declare success. And that process of doing that at 13 years old, I now have been doing for 60 consecutive years. Mm-hmm. I have the documentation sitting in my office.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. And would you say those early country club golfers were the first iteration of coaches in your life?
I would, absolutely, for sure.
And the reason they became coaches is because you asked. And I think there's so much power in being vulnerable enough to ask, how did you get to where you are?
Oh, guess what? Even better. I want you to visualize me carrying the golfers' clubs for 18 holes with this long list of questions. You go into the clubhouse and you see a buddy of yours at the bar and you go, hey, did you ever have that Daly kid carry your bag? Oh, did he ask you the questions? and the next response was, yeah, you know what? I'm going to ask for him to carry my bag again so that I can figure out what he's going to do with them and where he's headed. That kid stands out from everybody else out here. All you needed to do, Kathleen, was what you just said. All you need to do is ask. I mean, the worst thing that happens is they tell you, "Hey, I'm busy golfing, leave me alone." Okay,
Right.
that's not a guy for me. I'll grab the next one.
Right. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And did you know, every time I talk to Jack Daly, there's learning, right? So in my life, when I was in high school, I was at the Hartford Country Club and my brother was working the bar and I was working the tables. And we had this similar experience, Irish Catholic, young. We had enough money for our home, our food. We had a lot of love, but I wanted to live a different life. And so my brother worked the bar, I worked the grill, and we grilled the members. How did you get here? And so, we're very blessed, just like you. And, one of the pieces from this conversation for all of you listening is don't be afraid to ask how others have achieved success, because you will learn so much about what you want to do and also lessons of what you don't want to do. So I'm curious, of those conversations, what did you learn about who you didn't want to be?
Well, before I answer that, I'm going to go back to meeting you for the first time.
Yeah.
You were in a mastermind group.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Colorado,
mm-hmm.
and you were just one of several people. And
500, I believe, one of 500.
And I left. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have known you as a result until you reached out and we met at an Embassy Suites lobby.
Well, do you remember what you said? Are you a recruiter?
and there were 500 people in that session, and you were the only one who reached out and said, I'd love to pick your brain on some things. And you had the courage to possibly hear no. And you heard, sure, if you're going to make it convenient for me, I'm at the Embassy Suites, come over here. And we sat in the lobby and had a great time. And we then moved forward with our relationship as friends and have interacted with each other's. My guess that might be 20 years ago. I don't know.
It is. It's 20 years ago.
And since then, you've gone on to write a book. I think you're in the process of writing another, and you're on the speaker tour, and it's enhancing your business. And we have sat and talked about those types of things and whether I thought they were good things or not so good things, and how to leverage it, et cetera. Right. Yeah, you're a walking example of the advice that you're giving to other people. You're not just talking it, you walk it, right?
Absolutely. You were, are, and always will be one of my choices for a coach. And Jack Daly will always tell you the truth, people.
Yeah. So back to your question, what did I learn not to do? I'm a voracious reader, and one of my top 3 books that I've read is Essentialism, and it's written by a guy by the name of McCowan. And essentialism basically says, get rid of so much of the things in life that distract us from what we're good at and what brings us joy. And if we can stay in that lane, you're going to have a remarkable life. And, it's interesting. I do CEO coaching over the phone around the world. And I have several of my coach clients that have asked for the coaching relationship to be 60% business, 40% personal. One of my clients is 80% personal, 20% business. When Tom first contacted me, he said, gosh, I sat in the room mesmerized by your whole presentation. But when you finished, I thought, I run a really good company and we're doing a bunch of the stuff that Jack just talked about. But this guy eats my lunch with the quality of his life. I want you to teach me how to live that kind of a life, right? You live big, right? And, when I think about the speakers, if I wanted to think about the speakers as being competitors, because I'm in the speaking business, so many have come to me and said, I don't know how you find the time. Like, how do you do all the races that you're doing? You wrote Jack Daly's Life by Design. That's your 10th book in 20 years. You're traveling to all these countries, and you're very public with your life on social media. There aren't enough hours in the day, right? And the answer is that I'm not doing a lot of things that my other speakers are doing. It wouldn't be something that would bring me joy, and it wouldn't necessarily be something I would be good at. As an example, imagine traveling 250,000 air miles in a year and having to make not just those arrangements, but hotels and air and car or Uber or the client provides. And by the way, your calendar is forever changing, and therefore you have to make the changes. Why would I do that travel on my own? I'm terrible with technology. I don't carry a laptop with me. I've got an iPhone is the only apparatus I bring with me, and I would be awful at it. And so I have a travel agent that handles me, and she calls me. I'm her George Clooney of her clients, the up in the air guy, and it's perfect. I don't do any of my handout materials that I provide to my audiences because, once again, I would be terrible at it. And so I stay very narrow and do the things that are essential to becoming a world-class speaker and coach, and then rely on other people for so much in life.
Absolutely. And it's called simplification. Do what you love what you do, and delegate the things you don't. And focus on those things that you can give you joy and also give other people joy.
Well, look at this way. You've heard this expression before from me. If you don't have an assistant, you are one.
Right. Right.
I'll go back to when I was 12 and I took a newspaper route of 32 customers from the kid who had it before me. And a year later, it was 275 customers. Now, I'm in the Philadelphia suburbs. It's cold, it's snow, it's ice, it's dark after school, and delivering 275 papers did not bring me joy and didn't give me time to do what I really excelled at, which was sell papers. And so I hired 5 kids that were under 12 who couldn't get a paper route and said, deliver these papers for me for a year, and I'll pay you half the money the company pays me, and then I'll write you a letter of recommendation to get your own route when you turn 12. I had 5 assistants when I was 12 years old. And so, as a speaker, here I am with no employees, but I have 6 personal assistants who take care of me in so many different ways. Most have been with me for over 10 years. And I met them one time. And you know Jennifer.
I know Jennifer. I know Dan. I know many people.
Yeah, Jennifer's been with me for 18 years. She's a 45-minute drive from my home. And I would guess that I've seen her less than 20 times.
Yes. But
right?
you work well, delegation and simplification and doing what you love. And you do it very well. So I want to ask you about the tale of the tape. So something that some of you might not know is my dear friend Jack has been fighting cancer, and he just got to ring the bell. And that's his number one tale of the tape for the first half of 2022. Tell us about that journey, Jack, and then tell us about the tale of the tape.
Yeah. So on social media, I publish quarterly how I'm doing on a lot of different things that I track and measure that relate to my goals. And it's interesting. Karen, my wife, was a client of mine for 20 plus years. And until she moved in with me, she didn't realize why I was so public on social media, but I started to share with her every day. I get snail mail, email, text, from people all over the world saying, because of this, I'm now enjoying some attributes in life.
Right.
the person who was under 30, who was 28 years old and 400 pounds. And because of my tail of the tape, giving the stats that I did, and I'm so much older than him, he said, I'm committed to running a marathon. And he went on to even doing an Ironman, and he's now 200 pounds and went on to flourish in so many dimensions of life. Those things are happening like every day. And Karen's like, I want to be a part of this too now. So she's more public with what's going on, and she writes a blog in her industry and with the people that follow her, and opens up her life. And it's because we now know that it's making a difference. In fact, let me share this one with you. You are going to just absolutely melt on this. I have a coach client up in Seattle, and he brought his family down to meet me. And so 3 kids, a wife, and him, and his name is Bob. And so we took him over to the country club and had lunch and really enjoyed their whole company and so forth. And then I write Jack Daly's Life by Design. And one of his sons, Dylan, sent me an email a week ago, and I'm going to read it to you because it's short. The subject is Life by Design. Dear Mr. Daly, I don't know if you remember me, but I am Dylan, last name, Bob, last name, son. I just finished reading your book, Life by Design. It really inspired me to be successful. I would like to share some of my 1-year goals with you. Start a business. 2, read 50 or more books in a year. And 3, get straight A's the whole school year. I'm thinking of some more goals, but your book really inspired me, so thank you. By the way, Kathleen, this kid is 9 years old.
Isn't that great? So back to the potholders.
It's
I have goosebumps.
Absolutely, but the hair on my arms is just all at attention. And so I'm now embarked on reaching out to kids in different age sections and preaching the gospel of life by design to them. And Dylan was a catalyst for that.
What a way to make a difference, because, by documenting your goals and achieving your goals, or even failing, I think sometimes we learn the most when we don't achieve and why we don't achieve. And then it goes back to the coaches. I remember your story about the first time you had the audacity, I think that's the word you used, to, just do a marathon, and an Ironman, and you did it because you had done marathons, and you're like, how hard could this be? I run all the time. I'm great at this. And the first time you did it, you were humbled by the experience because you didn't have the biking and the swimming. And so it really, kind of that failure, I say in quotations because you still did it. It was a learning experience that helped you kind of be so good at Ironmans. To share that story with everybody.
So Kathleen, so I show up in Hawaii for a week's vacation with Bonnie, and we check in the hotel, and I see a banner, and it says there's a half Ironman being held that weekend. So I went down to the booth and said, is it too late to register? And the guy said, no, you're good. You can register. And I said, okay, well, let me ask you a couple of questions. I didn't know it was being held, so I don't have any gear with me. Can you find a way to get me a bike? And he said, sure, I'll put you in touch with the bike shop. So I get on the phone with the bike shop, and the guy says, how big are you and what size bike and so forth. And then he asked me what kind of pedals I wanted, and I didn't even understand the question. And he goes, well, what kind of clips do you have in shoes? And I'm like, I'm going to use my running shoes. I've never been on a bike where you clipped in. And he's going, well, I don't understand. You're going to do the half Ironman in Hawaii. It's 56-mile bike. You're going to do that in your running shoes? I said, it's the only thing I have, and it's the only thing I know. And he goes, all right, we'll put some baskets on the pedals so that your feet don't fall off. And I say, that's nice. And when he brought the bike, he's out in the parking lot showing me how to operate the gears. And
Oh
three
my.
really built guys, they were absolute athletes, are waiting for their car to be valeted up, and they're laughing. And I came over and I said, hey guys, I'm just curious, are you laughing at me? And the guys all went and looked and went, yeah, you're just learning how to ride a bike, and there's a race tomorrow that you're going to race in. And I said, yeah, but this is not going to be my worst event. I don't know how to swim. I doggy paddled the next day 1.2 miles in the ocean and barely made the cutoff. And then got on this bike that I didn't know how to ride, and then finally made the cutoff there. And then I'm running. Well, I'd run many, many marathons, so I was in my home turf, right? And so I'm sitting on the beach. About 5 days later, I turned to Bonnie and I said, hey, I'm thinking that type of race would be a lot of fun if I knew how to swim and trained on the bike. And she goes, really? You're really going to do that? And I said, yeah, I'm going to put that in my goals and do an Ironman. And when I went on to do 15 full Ironmans over an 8-year period of time.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
But again, I went out, I found my swim coach, I found my bike coach, I found my run coach. I realized that you need to be properly nutritioned if you're going to be out there covering 70.3 miles or 140.6 on the full. And it's all doable. You just reach out to the people that know the things that you don't know and learn from it, right?
Right. Yeah. And that is life by design. It's all doable. And if you didn't try, you wouldn't know, and then you wouldn't hire the coaches. It's the journey. That's the fun part. And now we get to, all of us who know you get to live that story with you. And that is just classic, Jack.
Hey, so in Jack Daly's Life by Design, in that book, I actually talk about my bucket list, which is over 400 items, right? And I've put some things down that people have viewed this as like, you're just a nut job, like you're crazy. And so I put down, I wanted to fly a jet fighter plane. And I've never had a flying instruction. Well, a YPO member saw that and emailed me and said, is that box still unchecked? And I said, yeah, it's not checked yet. And he sent me a picture of a jet fighter plane he bought from the US Air Force and said, I bought this from the US Air Force. Would this qualify? And I said, hell yeah. And he said, we just need to find a time and day where we can meet. And he lands his plane. He pops the cockpit open. He gives me a blue helmet, and he says, get in the back cockpit seat. And we took off. He asked me if I enjoyed amusement parks, and I said, sure. And he goes, so we'll do some thrill rides up there. So he's doing barrel rolls and 360s and stuff. And then we leveled out. And then he said to me, because we're communicating helmet to helmet, and he said, so are you ready? And I said, ready? Well, like, ready for what? And he goes, well, you said you wanted to fly it. So between your knees is a little toggle switch. Be gentle with it. And I'm going to pass the controls of the plane over to you. And off I went, flying a jet fighter plane. You just put it out there. So my bucket list literally has been posted on my website for as long as a website has been in existence.
And putting it out there. I mean, putting it out there to everyone to live your life by design, dare to care in the workplace, and make sure you ask for what you want in this life, because it's really brief, right, Jack?
For sure. And here's the other thing, and I make mention of it in Life by Design book, is that for years when I was running my companies, I had this bucket list since I was 28. I used to call it a life list till the movie came out. And I thought that's a better name for it. But I helped employees of my companies build bucket list, or build a life list, or build what's your 3 dreams. I have clients, Kathleen, now from a culture standpoint in their business, where they are allocating 6 figures annually to help their employees' dreams come true. How good is that?
That's where the magic happens. And people work for companies so they can have a better life. And you're helping people have a better life, Jack, every day. That's you, buddy. And I love you. And I appreciate you joining me today so much. We have more to talk about, but Today we have to wrap it up, and I love you and I thank you.
You reached out to me. I didn't reach out to you. And all I can do is give you a big virtual hug and say, thanks for having me on the podcast today.
The pleasure was all mine, my friend. And that wraps up another episode of Dare to Care in the Workplace. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get my new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I'd love if you left me a review so more folks like yourself can discover the show. Until we meet again.
This has been Dare to Care in the Workplace. To connect with Kathleen, go to KathleenQuinnBotaw.com. Kathleen's book, Dare to Care, is available wherever books are sold. Dare to Care in the Workplace is a production of Forbes Books.